Hey everyone, how's it going? So today I'm going to be drilling some chess tactics as part of my training for the Ultimate Sensei Rapid event that's coming up in a couple weeks. And a couple weeks ago, my coach for the event, Alex, actually prescribed that I flip on a camera and submit to him a hour-long session of me doing chess tactics on medium to hard difficulty while verbalizing my thought process so that he can get a better sense of how I calculate. And it's actually a really difficult challenge, processing my thoughts into language while calculating. It turns out I'm a little bit slower and less creative when I do so, but I think it's good practice. I'm going to try it again with a half-hour long session here in this session. And I'm really going to be emphasizing easy tactics on chess tempo so that I can more quickly incorporate those 1 to 2 to 3 move basic patterns more quickly into my quick time control games. So without further ado, let me get started here in chess tempo. And let me also make sure that the board is moving. Okay, it is. I actually recorded this same session twice before this because when I got done and I checked the recording, the board was static and it hadn't made any of the moves. And they were good sessions too, but you know, the more puzzles, the merrier, I guess. So could always use more practice. So in this position, material is equal. I could play queen takes b7 check, followed by bishop takes c6 check, if he doesn't block with the queen. If he blocks with the queen, I don't see a good follow-up. Actually, that's not true. Bishop takes c6 check actually deflects the king. If he plays king d6, c5 check, and I'm winning the queen. So maybe he has to go king e8. So queen b7 check, king e8, bishop c6 check should be decisive enough. But let me make sure I don't have anything better here. My pawn on d4 is hanging, but he can't really take it because of a rook on d1. This leads me to consider moves like c5, but I think simply retreating is fine for black. So I'm going to go for this. And my plan here was to take with the bishop, but again, I'm going to pause to make sure that there's nothing better. I can go c5, but I think he just takes on d4. So I'm going to just take with check. Okay, this isn't correct, so there must be something better. Maybe I just take with the queen, and then I'm just 2 pawns up. Okay, the computer likes this better. And I'm winning an exchange there as well. I guess that's the reason taking with the queen is better, because if I take with the bishop, the queen is in the way of the attack on the rook. So, yeah, I really should have seen that, but we'll move on. Okay, so we have a lot of pressure on g2. And actually, right away, we can go up and exchange with knight f3, I think. If knight f3, rook takes f3, rook b takes g2, king h1, rook g1, king h2, and rook 6 to g2 is made. So I think this is just a fork. Okay, so let's look for a mate here. We're down a rook, so we have to deliver mate, I think. Let's first look at captures, particularly captures that come with check. So h takes g7 check, and he has to take with the queen. And now we can deliver check on h5. He has to block with the queen on h7, and we deliver mate on h7. Okay. So in this position, we're down a couple pawns, but his king is very exposed. The first move that comes to mind is bishop b3, trying to deflect his king from the queen. But he still has king c1 and king c3. His bishop's defended. Let's see if queen c4 leads anywhere. I don't think so after king d1. There's bishop e4. But again, I think king c1 or king c3 might both be okay. Let me just check. Bishop e4, king c3. This is a toughie. I've noticed there's quite a range of difficulty even within the easy filter on chess tempo. We got to do something because my queen's hanging. So you either got to move the queen or deliver a check. Or both. My bishop is also hanging if I move the queen somewhere lazy. My sense is that it's got to be a bishop move, because I don't see anywhere to move the queen that comes with like a huge threat. So let's look at the bishop moves again. And the only two bishop moves that I think are plausible are bishop e4 and bishop e3 check. Bishop e3 check, king c3. King c3, queen f3. And now maybe queen d3 is an option. And I don't see anything for us there. If bishop e3, king c3. Yeah, I just don't think that's bishop e3, king. If king c3, then queen c4. That's checkmate. Okay, so we can't play king c3. So bishop e3 check, king c1. On queen f1 check, and he's got to block with the queen, and that's me. Interesting. He has to give up the queen. Okay. Again, I wish I would have spotted that faster, but so the first move that appeals to me is rook h8 check. This is the most forcing. He has to take. And after rook h1 check, have we accomplished anything? Probably not. There's tension between the rooks on the d file, so if we deflect the queen, that could be something. Bishop h7. I think he has to play king f8 there. Oh, okay. So what if we just play rook h8 check, king takes h8, queen h2 check, king g8, queen h7, king f8, and queen h8, and that's mate. Okay. So materials equal. Both kings are a little suspect. The rook on f7 is hanging. So is the rook on g3. But we can't take it right now because of mate on e8. No, actually, if we take and he takes the rook, we can just retreat our rook, blocking the check. But still, material is just equal there. We are threatening mate on g2, though. Maybe there's no way to stop that. Maybe that's the point. Maybe he has to play g4. The point is that after rook takes g3, queen takes e8, rook g8, he has to move the queen. And there's nowhere he can move the queen to defend mate on g2. So he has to give up the queen. Okay. Again, let me just make sure that the board is moving. Okay, it is. It would be a nightmare if the recording didn't pick up the board this time. Okay, so the queen is tied to the defense of the bishop on b5. I don't see anything else the queen's doing, though, so maybe it's not an overworked problem. What else? What else springs to mind here? Bishop d4 is interesting, but after queen takes d4, I don't see a good discovery. Maybe bishop takes b5. Am I threatening anything besides the queen? I mean, my rook can come to d7 next. I mean, instead of bishop d4, there's also bishop c7. Is this just a trade? Okay, let's look for other stuff. Knight takes e6. What about knight takes h7? King takes h7 and g4. Then maybe he's going to give checks along the diagonals. That looks kind of dangerous. So far I'm liking bishop d4 the most. We just take on h5 and then mate on h7. There it is. Okay, so here I think we just take with the queen and we're up a piece. Let me just make sure. Yeah. Okay. It's another good pattern to try to more quickly recognize. In this position, material is equal. We have rook a1 check, king b2. What else do we have? Do we have like knight d3? Pawn takes... No. He's almost made it if I can just cover b2. Oh, this is tricky. Okay, so I think just knight d5, and we it's a discovered attack on his bishop, and it's a double attack on his rook and bishop. Okay, do we take the bishop or the rook? I think just the rook. Yeah. Okay. We're up a piece for 3 pawns, so we have to do something. Is king d4 threatening to set up some kind of mating net? King d4, c7, rook b1, check, king d2. I don't see anything better than a perpetual there. If king d4, c7, knight f2 check. Knight c1, nothing better than knight d3. So if king d4, c7, rook b1 check, he can't play king c2 because of rook c1 mate. No, rook c1 isn't mate, he has king d2. And again, no good follow-up there. So I'm pretty sure it's not king d4, although this looks the most natural. Man, it's hard to create a mating net without the king. King d4, c7. I wanted to try something like king e3, but he has king e6 check, so maybe king c3. King c3, and we're threatening rook d2. Maybe rook d2 mate is unavoidable. That's pretty nice. I think this is the idea. Nice. Okay. We've got, I think, 10 to 15 minutes left. I forgot to start the timer, but we'll start it now for 15 minutes. All right, so materials equal here. We have a nice pair of bishops raking along the long diagonals. His king is a little bit exposed. He's got a nice defending bishop, though. He's threatening to win our b2 pawn. What about bishop c7? Bishop c7, he probably just takes on b2 with the queen. I'm thinking c7 with the idea of rook d8. If c7, c takes b2. I'm not convinced by this. So if c7, c takes b2, rook d8, b1 equals queen, rook takes b1, queen takes b1, rook takes e8. It's basically a rook exchange. But no, queen takes b1 comes with check. So c7, c takes b2, rook d8, b1 equals queen, rook takes b1, queen takes b1 check is just winning for black. I was looking at bishop d6 ideas, but he just takes with the knight. I mean, that's an option. I take back with the rook, and his pawn is pinned. But again, not very convincing. I feel like I'm missing something somewhat obvious. Maybe c7, c takes b2, rook b1. is good enough. That's the best I see right now. Rook b1, let's say c3. Rook d8, and this is a double attack on the knight and the rook. He could play knight d6. But bishop takes d6 should be winning. Let's just try it for the sake of time. Okay, this is wrong. The answer is rook b7. With the point of what exactly? Queen a5, what's the idea? Bishop c7. Queen a4. And the rook's hanging. Okay, so it's a deflection. It is a deflection. I should have been more cognizant of this. Yeah, if the rook goes, or if the queen goes to like d8 here, then we just take the rook right away. All right, let's move on. Equal material, white's up a pawn. I could play f3 and then take the rook. Got to be careful about knight discoveries though. Although after rook takes e5, I don't see a good knight discovery that wins him any material back. It also comes with check, and it's actually checkmate, so yeah, that's an important detail. Okay. Do we have like queen takes f6? No, just rook takes, that's fine. Rook takes g7, check. And if bishop takes, we have exactly nothing. Could play rook g4, trapping the queen. Gotta make sure he doesn't have a good bishop discovery. He doesn't have g5. He has no discovery with check, which is important because I can just take his rook on f8 before taking the queen, and I'll be up a rook. So I think this is just winning, trapping the queen, rook g4. And now I just take the rook, I think. Okay. So I'm pretty sure rook c1 check removes the defender of the knight on f4. And he doesn't have an intermezzo with like knight takes d5 because rook takes c1 check. I'm going to play this quickly. Okay, we've got 6.5 minutes left. Okay, so it looks like white's about to get mated somehow. Queen g3, queen g3 check, maybe f6 check. f6 check looks like the most forcing, because if king h6, then queen h4 is mate. And if king g4, maybe h5, that's also mate. So yeah, I think f6. Oh, sorry, I don't have queen h4 because the queen's defending, but I do have queen d2.
Hey Phil, will you get me a black trash bag? No.
Okay, so here my rook on d8 is lined up against his queen, which could be important. Queen g2 check doesn't lead anywhere. If I take on d3, his rook will end up hanging after queen takes d3. So maybe I can then go knight takes g2. If rook takes g2, queen takes c1. I want an exchange there, which is good enough because material is equal here. My king's in no danger. So I think I take here, and then take here. All right. Okay, here. He's threatening my h-pawn. I have a very advanced c-pawn. And if I push right away, rook c8, and do I have anything? I don't think I have anything there. Oh, I do. I have rook d4. Rook takes d4, hitting the knight. But maybe he can take my pawn because he's hitting my bishop on c2. I mean, I can desperado out of it with bishop takes g6, but he just takes with the knight, so I can't do that. I'm looking for a tempo move with the bishop so I can defend the pawn with rook c1 maybe, but alas, I do not see it. That's a timer, but I'm going to go ahead and finish this one and maybe even do one more. Okay, so I forgot that I had a meeting with Michael at this time, so I'm just going to do this last puzzle and then stop the recording. So let's try to knock this one out, end the session strong. Okay, come on, it's got to be c7. I'm just going to play it. Okay, it's wrong. The move is rook takes d4. And if rook takes, then c7, and the pawn can't be stopped. Wow. Oh, man. Wow. Yeah, that's something I definitely don't want to miss in this competition. Okay. So if anyone has any specific advice for how to recognize these things quicker, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I hope you have fun with your own tactics training, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.